It's the Mecca. The sun is always out in South Ozone Park, Queens, here at the Big A. Isn't that the case? And no such thing as a dark day on Monday and Tuesday with the thoroughbred racing action on MSG+. Glad you're with us here on the National Racing Report. It's the MIG, Richard Migliore, Jason Blewitt. We're missing our compatriot, Andy Serling, who's got the morning off, but we have a lot of ground to cover and sort of no rest for the weary as the year really winds down. We've got a lot of stops to make all over the country, Mick.
Yeah, and all over the country, and that's what's interesting. We're going to bounce back and forth between here, Florida, a little California, and some good races, and looking forward now, starting to talk Kentucky Derby already.
Definitely. A bunch of two-year-old maiden races to bring you later in the show, but it really begins, and no surprise, looking at the stake schedule throughout the country last weekend was Saturday's Grade 1 Los Alamitos Futurity, and that's the only Grade 1 race we have for you on the show, and that's where we're headed. California Chrome early on Saturday morning out at Los Al had a nice three-quarter breeze. Many hours later, it was Hall of Fame trainer Bob Baffert doing what he does best, winning a major two-year-old stake, and he actually not only wins, he runs 1-2.
Yeah, 1-2, and you know, basically uncoupled entry, but they their styles really complemented each other for sure, and the eventual winner is 6th right now, in between horses with Gary Stevens. He was wide both turns in between. You're going to see him kind of trying to ease back out of the spot, really pulling here. And the thing that impressed me, and in some ways, Jason, I think this race was a bit messy. This horse was wide both turns, and he stayed in the bridle, meaning he was pulling on Gary Stevens much longer than an average two-year-old can do, meaning he finds a lot of air, a lot of lung capacity there. I think this horse was very good. I'm not so sure about the entire field, but I think he was good.
Now, regarding his stablemate, Taves on Ice, who's by a freshman stallion in Arch. Out of a Wildcat mare, do you think ultimately he may have tipped his hand to being more of a sprinter / miler looking ahead to his 3-year-old season?
Yeah, I think if Bob Baffert was questioned about it right now, he would say Taves on Ice is his King's Bishop horse, and More Spirit is more of his classic kind of Derby horse. And you can see he's wide here. Gary Stevens is still kind of riding him very confidently, very long stretch. Taves on Ice tries to go for the breakaway here, and you're going to see More Spirit. He's going to kind of duck in and almost hip check him there, and Gary Stevens is going to have to pull him off, and he goes on and wins a little easier than the eventual margin of victory would suggest. This horse won pretty easy, and like I said, the impressive thing is two-year-olds don't tend to stay on the bit as long as this horse did.
And I like that this colt, or I should say Ridgeling, it's not a colt, he's a Ridgeling by Escondrea. And the Escondreas, in my book, I haven't been overly impressed with his work as a sire, but this horse is really good. And getting back to my original point, I like that he's got foundation, and he hasn't been sort of a one-track pony. Bob Baffert's already shipped him around, a couple races at Santa, got him a race at Churchill Downs last time out in the slop in the Kentucky Jockey Club, and he took his show on the road to Los Al on Saturday.
Yeah, and I like that too, because it teaches a young horse a lot of things. They have to, face a lot of different situations, and even the shipping. You think about the rigors of shipping, getting on a plane, flying. You mentioned before we came on air about him catching a sloppy track at Churchill Downs. These horses in Southern California probably have never galloped on a sloppy track, so they're getting a lot thrown at them, and it takes a certain physical and mental constitution for a horse to be that good horse that can handle that stuff.
All right, so far he's handled everything well for trainer Bob Baffert, who not only ran 1-2, he recorded his record 8th win in the Futurity, a race obviously known formerly as the Hollywood Futurity.
It's uncanny the work he does with all horses, but particularly young horses. And I got to listen to him on the radio earlier in the week with Steve Bick talking about he won the Champion of Champions, which is the biggest quarter horse race they run for older horses, and thinking that was the highlight of his life. He would never do anything better than that. Well, a Triple Crown, several derbies, all kinds of Breeders' Cups. I mean, an amazing career.
One of the legendary trainers of all time. I mean, the guy is really one of the greatest horsemen. At times has been a polarizing figure, but I think that old act has settled down. Or Bob, as he's gotten old, he's just, and I don't want to call him immature, because I loved when back I was in my college years, the way he made a splash with Silver Charm and Real Quiet, and really brought a colorful aspect to the training side of it. But it just seems like Bob has really taken on the reins and taken the role, and has done it, I mean, without anybody asking him, becoming a real just great ambassador of the game.
Yeah, I think he's really kind of evolved into that. And I think back to myself as a kid. No doubt Muhammad Ali was great, he got on my nerves because he was always boasting on how great he was. And I think Bob, in some ways, was polarizing that way. But you know what? I guess it's not bragging if you can back it up.
And he has backed it up for sure, right into racing's Hall of Fame, and of course racing's 12th Triple Crown winner last spring with American Pharoah. Let's come home to the Big A. We do have 3 races altogether to bring you from Saturday's card on the inner track. It was listed fast. The temperature dipped down maybe about 40 degrees. It was quite windy. We did see an inner track MIG on Saturday that was tilted down towards the inside. And I think the break right here with financial modeling over the 4 Tommy Macho was basically the deciding factor in the race.
That was the key to the race right there. When the eventual winner got to clear so easily and then galloped to lead, and you could just see how rhythmic and how balanced he was coming by the wire the first time, and he put Tommy Macho in that unenviable position of having to chase. And he's a nice horse that's improving, and when you get loose like this, and you can see his ears are up, he's comfortable, he's not pulling. And, you know, we talk about this often. It's not how fast you're going, it's how you're going fast. Well, he's not going particularly fast, but look how he's traveling. A horse can't go as sweet.
Beautifully. And this all goes back to, I think, the work Chad Brown and his crew have done with financial modeling, who, by the way, I mean, in a few weeks, couple weeks, is going to turn 5. And he's really only run 7 or 8 times. He really got back to the races this past summer at Saratoga, and it's been sort of the typical Chad. And this is just a credit to the way he brings horses along. Steady improvement, no real breakout race or wow factor race, but it's just been a steady ascent with financial modeling, and it culminated with the biggest win of his career Saturday.
Well, you know, how often do we talk about the horsemen that we admire so much, people like Shug McGahee, and what do we say? That horses continually improve and they race into their 4, 5, 6-year-old seasons getting better. And that's a testimony to their horsemanship, their patience. Now, this horse obviously stepped up and ran a big race. I think he was aided by the racetrack and the way the race developed.
Yeah.
He's going to have to prove it to me that he's got that next step forward to be what I would call a player in the handicap division.
Of course. And where do you go as far as your thoughts with Tommy Macho? Because he had really had a breakout effort, wet track or not, getting a 99 buyer in the Discovery, and off that big win was around even money Saturday beneath Kendrick Carmouche. He ran second, but looking ahead to 2016. And I guess you could add financial modeling even with the dressed-up performance in the Queens County to the mix. The handicap division, especially on the East Coast, looks very, very lean. We lost a lot of star power at the end of this year.
Yeah, our star power was decimated. They all went off to stud, and I'm sure they're very happy about their second career choice, no doubt. But, you know, it's interesting. Tommy Macho, I think, is a horse that's more comfortable running at horses. Now, not that he doesn't have speed and not that he hasn't won on the lead. I don't think he's a true speed horse. Now, the way the track was yesterday, maybe it dictated to employ those tactics, and it didn't really work out that way. But I think he's a horse that's better when there's actual true pace in the race, which it was not in this Queens County.
Had everything his own way. A 104 buyer, though, for financial modeling, near 5-year-old by Street Sense for Klarovich. Chad Brown, who, by the way, with that win in the Queens County, had his 200th win on the year, and a few days ago went over the $20 million mark in purse money won.
It's just remarkable when trainers can put up those kind of numbers. And it speaks to, you know, this era of horsemen that have more horses, several divisions, spread out amongst very capable assistants.
And big purses, too.
I
mean, the purses are jacked up, but still. The work he's been able to accomplish, or the job he's done as a whole, and just his evolution in, say, 6, 7 years. It might not even be 7 years. It's incredible. I've never seen an ascension like Chad's.
You know, it even surpasses what Todd Pletcher did in a very short period of time, a meteoric rise to the position he's in.
And we'll see Chad in action, or at least one of his horses, down at Gulfstream Park. In fact, he had a couple running in the 2 turf stakes we will bring you, but it's all about the Florida races, one on the left coast, one on the right, after this quick timeout. Well, let's talk about Chad Brown and trainer Bob Baffert. The road to the 2016 Kentucky Derby brings us back to what transpired on this circuit beginning last New Year's Day right here at the Big A, and what has gone on over basically the last 12 months. History was made June 6th at Belmont Park with American Pharoah winning the Triple Crown, and all those great NYRA highlights from the year waiting for you for just $3 a calendar. What a steal and what a late stocking stuffer.
Well, it is a steal, and you know, I heard somebody make some sort of comment about how, well, it used to be free. Yeah, but you had to pay admission to get in, so now the admission's free. So I think if you look at it in bigger picture, you're still saving and getting a great calendar. And you brought it up. The first time the calendar is going to have a Triple Crown winner in it now 37 years ago.
Pretty cool.
And that was your first experience witnessing a Triple Crown winner. Can you explain what it felt like?
It's funny. I was at a Christmas party last night. Excuse my hoarse voice, and maybe some of my thoughts have been a little jagged here and there. But somebody asked me last night. We were talking about the year, and just it seemed the weather was good following the Belmont Stakes. It just seems like there's a lot of good stuff going on with the game as far as the numbers and the handle figures. And thank you to our great fans. But getting back to AP winning the Triple Crown, it really hit me watching him come down the stretch, and I'd say within the 8th pole to the finish line. And this was completely spontaneous. I thought back to my first few trips at Belmont in the summer of '92, and I've said it before with you on the Insider Show. It changed my life forever, and it just really hit me that I had waited basically well over 20 years, and here was that elusive Triple Crown winner. It was really awesome.
Something that I think we were all starting to believe couldn't happen again, but obviously it is possible. It just takes a certain kind of greatness to get it done.
It took many years, and that's what really hit me. All those horses, all those derbies, all those Belmonts, and we finally got one. And just that was one of the greatest days of my life, and I'm sure you'll attest to that. I know you said it took you right back to sitting on the rail as a teenager, right?
Yeah, well, actually, I had the same kind of flashback to me being 12 years old when Seattle Slew won the Triple Crown and being there with my father, and there I am on the racetrack with my son watching a Triple Crown winner, and it was actually emotional for me. It was a really, really great thing to witness.
It's such a family game, a real generational thing, thoroughbred racing. And Bob Baffert, and not to spend a lot of time because we do have to get to the races, Bob Baffert, I thought, had a very fitting quote during the Arizona Symposium a couple weeks ago, and a few people had sent it out on Twitter. And I'm going to paraphrase, but it was, once horse racing is in your blood, and you're a thoroughbred racing addict, there's just no cure. No cure.
No, there is no cure. It's in your blood. It's there to stay. You got to live with it.
All right, we'll head down to Gulfstream Park. We could do a lot worse than Gulfstream Park on a chilly Saturday in the Big Apple as we head down to some sunshine. They were fast and firm. And speaking of fast, how about this effort out of XY Jet and Mr. Prospector?
How do you this was jaw-dropping. He made a field of fast horses. There was other speed in here. Look slow. He just blitzed them right off the break. And you know what? I like when a rider allows a fast horse to do their thing. It basically rips everybody out of their game, and they get dizzy chasing.
No question. Son of Cantharos, who, for Jorge Navarro, he had, Private Zone for about a year, I'd say through most of 2015, yeah. Right? He seems like Private Zone started the year with Jorge. He lost that horse a few weeks ago to Brian Lynch. And, look, I'm not comparing XY Jet with the blowout win at Gulfstream, the Private Zone, but it is nice having a backup in the barn who clearly likes that main track down there. And there is ample opportunity going forward as far as the sprint program throughout the winter meet.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if this horse can carry that form over and take his show on the road, so to speak. But the one thing I liked, and listen, the obvious is there. A horse runs extremely fast. He wins by over 9 lengths. But if you watch his stride the last 16th of a mile, because a lot of times horses will win by a big margin, but their stride kind of deteriorates. This horse's stride was impeccable at the start, in the middle, and at the finish. And to me, that's what was exciting.
And what'd you learn Saturday on Insider with this one sire, Cantharos?
Well, I couldn't remember Cantharos, and you had all the skinny on Cantharos. I'm going, well, that household name, Cantharos, maybe I was a little hard on him.
Yeah, I think you were. He was a talented horse, man. Only ran 3 times, I think, but boy, oh boy, he was a good one for Stone Street. And let's keep our eye on Cantharos. Maybe we'll claim a mare and send it to Cantharos early on in 2016.
New York bred,
you game?
Cantharos.
Absolutely. State bred all the way. It's a no-brainer. Let's stay at the Gulf. We got back-to-back turf races to bring you, beginning with the boys in the Tropical Park Derby. This was about as insane a finish as you could ever hope to see in a grass stake down there, with basically half the field, if not more, separated by maybe a length and a half total.
This is what you look for. Turf racing is so much fun because of this. And, the winner, Silent Tribute, how game was this horse? It seemed like everybody took a shot at him. He was beaten several different times and kept coming back and finding more. And we've said this in the past. When Julian Leparoux's on the lead, it's because the horse is doing it properly. He's not looking for the lead. That horse took him there. But it looked like he could have been sixth at one point, and he just refused to lose. Great job by Brian Lynch. And is this a new stable from Lael Stable? I don't remember.
I have not seen. That's a great point, Mig. In watching this race, I had not looked at it, in the form before watching the replay Saturday night, and I kind of just assumed it was either Barkley or Nard Delacour. And sure enough, I said, man, this is the first time I've seen Brian Lynch, who really is a talented trainer. I've been bowled over by the job he's done, shipping in and out of New York, and obviously he had a string of the Big Apple this past summer, but he is a very talented horseman.
Yeah, top horseman and a really welcome addition to the New York scene.
All right, let's move on to the fillies now in the Tropical Park Oaks. Chad Brown's stable won the Queens County with the 104 Byring Financial Modeling. A bit later in the day, they were back in the winner's circle, and Chad was down at Gulfstream saddling Tammy the Torpedo, who seems to be healthy and coming into her own.
And, you know, she was impressive. She made a big middle move, brushed wide, took the lead. The eventual runner-up kind of countered and kicked on again, and then she resolutely came back. I thought this was a big performance. For her to be able to make that long a sustained run, it's unusual on the turf.
And she's gotten sharp, and she is a trivia question answer. If you were to say to somebody, go back in time, take us to her 2-year-old season, and who was favored over Lady Eli in the Miss Grillo? It was Tammy the Torpedo as part of an entry. They were betting this one, though, Tammy the Torpedo, as we see a triumphant Joel Rosario. And, of course, Lady Eli would go on to defeat Tammy the Torpedo in both the Miss Grillo and BC Juvenile Fillies turf. And I mention that only because we really got some great news about a week ago with Lady Eli hitting the track.
Yeah, Lady Eli coming back from, you know, her issues, and the fact that she's doing as well as she is remarkable. I mean, we would have all taken, forget racing, that she's going to be okay, and eventually we'll see baby Eli's running around. But the fact that she's coming back, and you know they're not going to race her unless she's 120%.
And, man, a deep bench for Chad. No matter what division you're talking about, turf, even on the dirt, he's got some good-looking 2-year-olds like Flexibility and Gift Box. It just keeps getting better for Chad as we head over to Tampa Bay Downs. This might be our first race we've covered this winter so far from Tampa Bay. We have our own little rolling pick 3, beginning with the Lightning City. We'll pick this one up in progress. And what are your after-the-race thoughts on the Lightning City?
Well, it was a fast race. The horse they named for my wife, Richie's sweetheart, is Takes Him Wire to Wire. Dean Butler, a guy who actually is up from the Saratoga area, has parlayed a pretty nice little riding career for himself. And, you know, years ago, I didn't think speed was good on the Tampa Bay turf course. I think that's kind of changed up, because it seems to me the more I watch racing from there, you want to be on top of it, at least by the time you turn for home.
And it is amazing the proliferation of this product that has just gotten stronger and more popular over the last few years. I walked by the TV a couple days ago, just coming up to the studio to do one of our pre-race prattles at the Big A, and they had I guess they had just had a race made official, and they had on the screen the total pools after the race, and it was a big number on a weekday, fairly early on a weekday card. I said, man, oh man, I mean, Tampa Bay has really become sort of a, not Gulfstream, but a primetime, destination down in Florida.
Well, and I think a lot of that has to do, too. A lot of horsemen that are stabled at Palm Meadows, Palm Beach Downs, Payson Park, Gulfstream ship there as well. Big names, you know, Christophe Clement, Bill Mott. And years ago, the only guy who used to do that was P.G. Johnson.
Oh, PG was known for shipping into Tampa. Good old, the late Hall of Fame trainer, P.G. Johnson. One of his proteges, John Hertler, had a 2-win Wednesday or Thursday afternoon. We like John, and certainly some great memories with PG. As we can move on to the inaugural stakes at Tampa Bay Downs, let's keep it going. This was race number 8 on the card, and Pedro Cotto Jr., I think you rode against him, probably going back. He's down at Tampa, and he gets it aboard Eshok at 3-5 for trainer Efren Loza Jr.
You know, I think he won the race by ripping it open and opening up by the time they turned for home. And you see this quite a bit if you watch races from Tampa on the dirt. A horse will open up, and horses will be closed, and it looks like they're going to get him, and they always run out of ground. And he basically had the race won. And you saw the horse kind of take a funny step there. I think he jumped a track or a shadow. He some deviation in the racetrack, and he kind of broke his momentum a little bit there. If he's only a length or 2 lengths in front at that point, I got to think he gets caught. And keep an eye on it here. You're going to see, I don't know exactly what he sees, but you're going to see the deviation in his stride coming up. And to me, right there, you know, I believe he spotted something.
Could it have been that seagull, maybe? That bird that was flying around?
You know, it might have been, or the shadow from him. But, you know, he definitely saw him break his stride, and the fact that he had enough cushion is what allowed him to hold on. If he was, you know, basically riding impatiently and allowing horses on top of him, he probably would have got caught.
And this horse is okay, by the way. He's 2 for 2. He's a colt by the late Harlan's Holiday out of an elusive quality dam. Got an 86 buyer, breaking his maiden first time out at 4 to 5 at Tampa late last month, and off that was an odds-on favorite Saturday. He's a perfect 2 for 2, and I'm not familiar with this trainer, Loza Jr. I would imagine his phone is ringing with potential buyers.
You know, this time of year, anybody with a good 2-year-old, their offers are coming in.
All right. I want us to get a good 2-year-old. That Cantharis New York bred we're going to have on the ground in a year from now is going to be a good one. All right, Hidden Treat is up next as we finish off the action at Tampa Bay Downs in the Sandpiper Stakes. And Daniel Centena aboard this horse. And, hey, Leal Stable and Arnold Delacour, Lemon Drop Kid filly.
Yeah, and she got it done. And Daniel Centeno is a very good rider, a guy that's I think, somewhat underrated and wins wherever he goes. He's had tremendous winters at Tampa. He's ridden well at Gulfstream, at Laurel, Delaware. A guy that rides with a lot of confidence, and I think you see a lot of the bigger stables will use him when they ship into these spots. And I wonder if there'll ever be a day when he decides to step up and try, you know, maybe New York or one of the major circuits.
Yeah, he's batting about 20% down at Tampa Bay Downs and has nearly 200 wins on the year. So this isn't sort of an out-of-town rider whose name we're familiar with but don't know that much about, who's only had 40 or 50 wins on the year. I mean, this is a guy who gets it done on a consistent basis.
Yeah, on a consistent basis. And you think earlier in the year, the Francis Dash, he was placed first by disqualification. Maybe the biggest win of his career as far as I know. But a guy that I like, and you want to see guys that work hard and are consistent be rewarded, and that's what you're seeing here.
And a homebred for the Jacksons, Lemon Drop Kid out of a Medaglia d'Oro mare as we talk about the future. It began with Bob Baffert and more chances, and it will end with a rolling pick 3, 2-year-old maiden races as we charge down the stretch. We're on with you here on MSG Plus, but there's no live racing this coming Wednesday through Friday. Obviously, Christmas Day this coming Friday, December 25th. Back at it Saturday, December 26th, with the calendar, $3 a pop, regular post at $12.20. It's the Mig and Jason. We're nearly out of time, but we have 3 more races to get to, and our last race, in fact, at Gulfstream Park, in which Ralph Nix, who's had a good winter and won a couple of races on Saturday's card down at Gulfstream, upset the big Todd Pletcher Rapoli firster in Mo Power with a Vast Matey, but the Rapoli horse hung out to dry. That's a tough trip to pull first time out at Gulfstream, right?
To be wide every step and have to make that long, sustained run, it's difficult. You know, these horses have a certain fitness level, but they've never been prepared to have to make this kind of run that long. All right, you know, let's give the winner some credit, but he did have the benefit of a race over the track, and he did what he, you know, was supposed to do. But watch Mo Power, I think, kind of settle here and really finally find his stride. It was almost like he was hooked up a little bit with the horse inside of him. And I think he's a little bit green, and you know, out of all the horses out of this race, he's the one that should improve the most.
And it looks like he'll stretch. Just wants more ground than the 6.5, and you've got that short stretch down there, about 3/16 of a mile or so once they straighten away. And Ralph Nix with a son of Birdstone. Nice seeing Birdstone with a nice 2-year-old maiden winner late in the season. Corey Lannery, the winning rider. All right, Intertrack to wrap up the action. Race number 4. We've got split divisions of the 2-year-old maidens that competed at the Big A Saturday. Adventist. He's the winner. He's the 3 in the Treadway Silks, the blue cap, white blinkers. Don't know what he beat. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this turns out to be basically a maiden claiming field behind him, with all due respect. But anyway you slice it, this was a solid effort from him.
This was a big effort, and again, you know, let's get past the obvious. Winning by over 11 lengths, running, you know, fairly fast. He was shaken up mid-stretch. I don't think this horse is a genuine sprinter. He was on the hard chase around the turn, didn't look comfortable doing it. Irad, recognizing that the track was favoring speed, was using him hard to stay there. I think this is going to be a better horse as he stretches out, and I think there's a lot of things to look forward to with him. And I know that sounds odd. He won by 11, and I'm going, wait, this wasn't even his best go.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, and Leah trains that way. A, he's by any given Saturday. He's got deputy minister on the dam side, and that's not Leah's game. She does not train in regards, and you've talked about this, for one race. It's a career and it's a progression, and she's done very well over the last few winters with terrible weather here in the Big Apple as far as training good talent and progressing them through January, February, and March.
Well, could she have had a better teacher than the late, great Alan Jerkins? I mean, and you could see his influence rub off on her, the way she trains a horse, and she's one of the trainers like Michael Hushin. He'll still work a horse 7 furlongs a mile.
I do like seeing it in the program like that because just so few people do it now. And we close things out. Home field advantage worked out well for Moon Over Beauty. She's based right here at the Big A with trainer Rick Blewitt Jr. And she was able to do something Saturday that very few horses were successful at, and that was basically vying outside and still getting the victory.
You know, Aaron Greider was all over Moon Over Beauty from the half-mile pole to stay within calling distance of the favorite Malibu Action, and he had a lot to do with the victory. His never say die ride, and you know, Aaron's a guy that on the inner track has had so much success because he recognizes biases and he recognizes how to ride this track. And this horse was very good to run down Malibu Action, and I think also a horse that can go forward. The only thing I question is when a horse has to run this hard first time, does it tear them down or do they go forward from it? And obviously every horse is different.
Every horse is different. That would be my real hesitation, taking a relatively short price on Moon Over Beauty when this one comes back, because Rick Blewitt, even though this horse didn't get bet and paid 12-to-1 odds, he is very good at getting that big first out effort, and maybe some of those horses need a little extra time to get back to that big effort. We'll see what the story is going forward. He's by Malibu Moon out of a dam over in a Beauty, who is a full sister to Tappet.
Well, that could make the difference there. When you've got that kind of pedigree, the quality tends to rise to the top.
Aaron Greider has got a couple of inter-track titles to his credit. Nice to end the show with him and veteran trainer Rick Blewitt Jr. And before we say goodnight, we've got to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Happy Holidays.
And that goes to you, too.
Yep, thank you. You as well. Always great working.
Yeah, same here. Pleasure, Mig. Thank you for joining us. We are back at it Saturday, December 26th. Peace and love. Peace and love. And a thumbs up from Erod Ortiz.